Hi, everybody. My name is Tara Short. I'm the founder and CEO of Green Adventures Tours, and I like to say I'm your first adventure buddy. Um, uh, I started Green Adventures 14 years ago, and my very first trips were Baja and Alaska. And now, 14 years later, the two groups that we work with are student groups and women's trips. And I'd like to thank all the women who have ever been my adventure buddy on a Green Adventures tour because you're the reason why we have 13 destinations. When we first started doing women's trips in Baja, uh, uh, that very first year, our participants were like, "Where are we going next, Tara?" And I was like, "I've got some ideas." So I've been fortunate enough to have these really extraordinary adventures to do things that like I've always dreamed about, and through beautiful destinations and amazing animals, found adventure buddies just like you. So today on this presentation, I'm going to be talking to you about the Uganda trip. And here helping me is Lori Anderson. And Lori is the trip leader in Tanzania. And I'll give her a chance to introduce herself in a second. But during this presentation, she's going to be helping me moderate because I always feel like it's like the Wizard of Oz, like he's turning all those wheels and he's behind the curtain. And there's just a lot to coordinate when you're here doing the presentation. So if you have questions or if there's some technological issue, I ask that you please put your questions, comments in the chat, and then Lori can interrupt me if needed, or at the end of the presentation, she can go over those questions. You're certainly welcome to ask questions at the end of the presentation too. I'd love to meet you, to see more than just names. But if you don't have a piece of paper or something comes to mind, the chat is a great way to just throw that question out and we can talk about it at the end. Okay. So Lori, do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Lori Anderson, and I'm a Green Adventures participant on a lot of the different destinations. Haven't quite hit them all yet, but trying to check them all off the bucket list. And I'm absolutely passionate about traveling and adventures, and equally, I just love meeting new people and hearing your stories. That's what I love about all of this.
Excellent. Thanks, Lori. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into my presentation. So as I mentioned before, Green Adventures Tours, we have 13 destinations. Wyoming is one that kind of fluctuates here and there. So it's not on the list, but these are some of our consistent places, from Alaska to Florida, Idaho, Wisconsin as our domestic trips, to Baja, Mexico, one of our longest running trips, Costa Rica, Galapagos, Iceland, Trinidad and Tobago, Roatan, Honduras, and 2 Africa country destinations. A long time ago, people would ask me, have you ever thought about going to Africa? And yes, I had thought about Africa, but I didn't know how I was going to do it or why I was going to do it. I just had an idea of the thing that I wanted to see in Africa. I knew I wanted to see mountain gorillas. And all of these destinations, without sounding too woo-woo, is that they all just kind of come to me at a time when I was ready for them. And that's what happened with the Uganda trip and Tanzania. I had actually just been in, I was with a friend in Key West, and we had just finished running a half marathon, and we were sitting at a bar in Key West going through like places to go for runs, and one of them to do a marathon, and one popped up that was Uganda. And I said to her, I was like, we should go to Uganda and run a marathon. And my friend's like, I'm not running a marathon in Uganda. And I was like, oh, I said, we could see the mountain gorillas. And she's like, no, that's not really what I want to do. Well, I kid you not, 3 days later, I was having dinner with a friend whose job is actually to put people like me in touch with outfitters in amazing places. So we're having dinner, and she said, what are you doing in April? And I said, I don't know what. She's like, do you want to go to Uganda? And I said, yes. And I said, well, I see mountain gorillas. And she said, yeah, that's part of the experience. So 3 months later, there I was in Uganda, doing the very thing that I wanted to do, which was to go see the mountain gorillas. But I had no idea just how special Uganda was going to be. Or my very first experience in Africa was going to be. They say the problem with going to Africa is that you have gone to Africa, because now you just want to keep going back. It's really a place that touches your soul. Yeah, so because I was in Africa and I was in Uganda, I had looked at a map and I saw Tanzania was right next door. So I had previously had some contacts there, and that same trip went to Tanzania and realized that there are two very, very different experiences that everybody needs to do. So tonight, I keep saying tonight, but it's the middle of the day. Today, I'm going to talk about Uganda, and then in about an hour from now, Lori is going to talk about Tanzania. So let's focus on, let's get to Uganda. So real quickly, Green Adventures, our mission is to help protect people, places, and ecosystems through sustainable travel. And I developed that mission because a long time ago, I fell in love with a quote by Aldo Leopold. He's one of my environmental heroes. And he said, "We abuse land because we see it as a commodity belonging to us. When we see land as a community to which we all belong, it's then we'll begin to use it with love and respect." And as an environmental educator, I knew that I had to teach people about the connections and the relationships. That's science and that's ecology. But how do you get people to love a place? And because that's ultimately what will help people protect it. And so through Green Adventures, I kind of broke that down into wow, wonder, and world citizenship. So I want to wow people with an amazing place. I want to help them ask questions, and then I want them to learn what they could do to protect that place, no matter where they are. And also we protect those places through sustainable tourism. And everything starts with a dream. My dream happened long before that time, sitting at the bar in Key West. When I was a teenager, I remember sitting in my living room on the floor watching the big box television. And I saw Gorillas in the Mist, and I was moved by this story and about Diane Fossey. And it was probably the first, little note I sent to the universe, like, one day I'm going to see mountain gorillas. And actually, now I think about it, I knew that I wanted to protect mountain gorillas, and I'm able to do that through these tours. So Uganda is known as the Pearl of Africa. It's Africa condensed. So people say, well, are all you're going to see in Uganda are the gorillas? I'm telling you, if that's the only thing you see in Uganda, that's pretty amazing. There's not very many people in the world who can say that they've been on the same within the same 10 feet of a mountain gorilla, especially since there's only about 1,500 individuals left in the world. And these are some of our closest genetic relatives. So, I mean, if I was that type of person who said, if I just went to Uganda just to see gorillas, that would be great. But Uganda has so much more to offer. There's traditional game drives like you would experience like in Kenya or Tanzania. It does have 13%, they have over 30 species of primates, and 13 of them can be found in just one of the forests that we go to. And you can also see Africa's Big Five. And if you think about that, what are the Big Five? Big Five are leopards, elephants, Cape buffalo, rhinos, and lions. So you could see all those things in Uganda. So Africa condensed, and then also the people are extremely friendly and welcoming. And I think that that's one of the things that when we are at the end of the week, kind of sitting around the table talking about how life-changing this experience was, is that people say, I didn't know that the people would be so friendly. I didn't know that their resilience and their hope and their positivity would resonate so much with me. So here is Uganda on the map. It's part of East Africa, and it's bordered by Tanzania and Kenya and the Congo and Rwanda, but it's actually pronounced Rwanda locally. And so that's where it's located. And to get to Uganda, we fly to an airport called Entebbe, and almost all major airlines will connect through Brussels or Amsterdam, Addis Ababa, or in Ethiopia, or even this year I went through Doha, Qatar, which was fantastic because I had a layover, but that's a whole nother side story that I would be happy to talk to you about another time. So you would fly to those connecting cities, and then they would fly to Entebbe, and you can expect about 24 hours of travel. So it's a long journey to get there. The cost from North America could be anywhere from $900 to about $1,300 round trip. And it depends on your comfort class, and you check bags, all that stuff. And then once a trip is confirmed, because we need 8 people to make a trip happen, we will send out travel parameters. You're welcome to plan accordingly and like block out dates using your miles, but we can't guarantee the departure until we have a critical mass. And that's why we offer early bird discounts. So at the end of this, I'll show you the breakdown. But you know that there's a monetary value in your patients, and those people who sign up early are the reason why we confirm trips. So if you sign up early, you save a lot of money, because you've helped us, you've taken the pressure off, and you've allowed us to confirm a trip much faster. And then if you are uncomfortable booking your own travel to Africa, we have a travel agent that can assist you, and she can book it for you. The entry requirements for Uganda. You need a valid passport with 2 blank pages. You need proof of a yellow fever vaccination or your yellow card, and you can get that in the United States. You have to get a tourist visa, which you purchase online, and that's $50. And so you'll have all those things before you right before you get on the plane. You also, unless you're vaccinated, because people who are fully vaccinated do not have to get a COVID test taken 72 hours before departure to Entebbe. Green Adventures no longer has a COVID requirements. Any COVID requirements that we are sharing with you are the entry requirements of the destination. So if you choose not to get vaccinated, that's fine. But if a country suddenly says you have to be vaccinated in order to enter, that's part of their entry requirements. And if you want to go, you have to meet those entry requirements. We can't give any refunds if you decide to back out. One of the promises that we have to you is that you may be traveling solo, but you're not alone. Just like at the beginning of this presentation, I introduced myself as your first adventure buddy. Lori is your first adventure buddy. Any trip leader on a Green Adventures tour is your first friend. So when you show up on a trip, know that if you don't know anybody else, you're going to know at least one person. And we also want to support you to prepare for your trip, before your trip, and during your trip, and we'll make sure we get you to the airport to end your trip. So we'll provide you with packing lists, suggestions, entry requirements, suggestions for travel insurance. Our team, whether it be Green Adventures specifically or our partners, someone will be waiting for you at the airport to pick you up. You have 24/7 on-site support. So if something goes wrong, if you have an illness or an accident, you don't have to figure it out on your own. If you need to have a COVID test return back home, which is not the case anymore, but in 2020 and 2021 and 2022, we had to get COVID tests to get back on flights, and we made sure that everyone had their tests in time. So none of these trips would be possible without the partners at each location. Green Adventures doesn't own safari vehicles in Africa, in Tanzania or Uganda. We work with local partners who are the local experts and guides, and we create itineraries based on our values and our goals and what our participants would want to see. And those are the trips that we offer. But on site, we have guides who are, like I said, local experts. They know the ins and outs, they know the safety, they know all the facts and figures about every park, every animal. And it's their home, and they're passionate about it, and they want to share it. This is Paul Tamwenya here in front and center, and I love this photo because it really does shine his personality. This man is one of the nicest, most genuine, most interesting guys you might have ever met. And he's got a really humble beginning from being one of, I think, 13 kids. Parents were school teachers. He started his life in school, using dirt, to write, to do his homework and do math problems, like a dirt and stick. And now he's built himself this amazing company that helps take people around. He focuses on birding. So if you love birds, this is your man. If you don't know anything about birds, you're going to love birds, because you can't help but not like the birds because of so much of his enthusiasm, and he points out things. And through his company, he gives back 5% of the profits to his nonprofit called Birds of a Feather, which Green Adventures is also working with him. This year, we helped send 15 kids to school for a year. And so he's just doing a lot of good in this world. And spending time sitting with him in in front of those safari vehicles, or next to him at the dinner table, again, that's part of this amazing experience. But these are the types of vehicles that we travel in. They're Land Cruisers, and inside, everyone has their own seat with their own windows. They have up to 6 people in the back. If someone wants to sit up front, that makes a 7th person. And you could stand up, like when we stop and look at animals, you could stand up when we're driving and feel the savanna breeze blowing through your hair. So this is like a image here of Sarah standing up to get a picture of the giraffes who are walking around, and this just enables you to have a 360-degree view of African wildlife. There is limited room for luggage though, and our packing list is pretty detailed. We ask that you don't bring more than that, more than the luggage size requirements, because we have very limited place to pack and store personal items. And you can see on the right how we have to store all the bags into the back of these safari vehicles. And people always ask, well, can I bring a suitcase? Can I bring wheels? No, you can't, because if you have a hard-sided suitcase, it won't smash in there like those soft duffel bags will. And I realize that some people have a hard time carrying duffel bags, a 40-pound duffel bag, through the airport. The good news is that you drop your 40-pound bag when you get your tickets, and then you only pick up your 40-pound bag when you land in the destination. And then from that point forward, there's porters moving your bags to your room. You don't have to schlep anything around. But by packing properly, you will definitely make it easier on us to move your luggage, because we move pretty much every day or every 2 nights. How do you dress on safari? Lori and I dressed up today like we were going on safari. It's forest-friendly colors. And I know here, I live in Chicago, and I told Lori this morning, I put this on and I felt like I was in like a prison camp because it doesn't really match in this environment. But in Uganda and in Tanzania, these colors are essential. We want to be as inconspicuous as possible for many different reasons. We want to blend in with the culture, with the environment. We don't want to draw any attention to us, because that makes us better travelers, for one. It keeps us safer. We don't just look like, if you're wearing you should not be, going to, even though these countries are safe, crime is universal, and you shouldn't be wearing any bling, no big jewelry, expensive watches. You want to be drab. And when we go out into the wild, so in Uganda, we do hikes, and we do walks through like sanctuaries. The colors we wear could, if they're too flashy or too bright, could scare animals. And in some cases, like with the gorilla tracking, poachers are watching from a distance into the forest, and they could see bright red jackets or bright colors moving through the forest, and that could lead them right to gorillas. And again, we want to protect these places. So these are the types of colors we wear. You're going to wear forest friendly. So it's going to be just like you're seeing here, greens like we're wearing, or browns. What you want to avoid though is like bright colors, like I said, like red or yellow. But in terms of rain jackets, one of the colors, I'm sorry, my dogs are going crazy. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. So one of the colors you generally want to avoid when you are actually on safari would be navy blue and dark and black. These colors attract tsetse flies, but only in savanna habitat. When you're in the rainforest, where you potentially could get rained on, and you can wear black pants, which is mostly the color of rain pants. You can wear a black jacket in there, but you just want to avoid navy blue and black out in the like savannas. And we'll tell you every day how to dress. But you do need a good rain jacket and rain pants for when you're hiking in the Bwindi Impenetrable Forest in Kibale National Forest. Also, hiking boots are important, not trail shoes, not tennis shoes. It's the real deal. On this trip, you are going to go hiking in a jungle, and there are safari ants, there are vines that can twist your ankles, there could be mud, there could be uneven parts of the path, and having a good hiking boot with good traction is going to be essential to keeping you safe. Also, you're going to want socks that can be pulled up to at least mid-calf, because you're going to tuck your pants into your socks when you're doing on the ground stuff hiking. And And then also you need a permethrin treatment, which is a spray that you pre-treat your clothing so that it can help you avoid getting mosquito bites, which could cause malaria. You will be taking, there are prescriptions that your travel clinic may suggest. One of those will be malaria medication that you'll take about 3 or 4 days before you travel to Uganda. You take it every day while you're in Uganda, and then you take it for a few days or a week after you come back. And there's different types of medications, so that's going to be up to your physician to decide which one is good for you. But yeah, so this is in general what you need for this trip. Some things that are optional but highly suggested: a pair of binoculars are really important. 8x42s are a good weight and focal length for looking at birds and looking at animals off in the distance. Certainly there's going to be things really close to you, but even things that are close, sometimes you want to look through your binoculars to see the details of their feathers or the scales or whatever. So binoculars are essential. Optional, but I would say that they are pretty essential for a safari. You're going to want to take pictures, right? But you don't need to have a big, expensive SLR camera. Most of the pictures on my website are taken with my phone, which I used a Samsung Note 9 probably at that time, or my iPhone 13. But you could also bring an SLR, and if you wanted to have that to practice, a minimum of 300 millimeter lens would be good. But I've also rented large lenses from camera stores, and you could get I can't remember the focal length of this lens, but it was like the size of my arm. I think I rented it for $100 for the whole week. So you could, if you wanted to work on your photography skills, you didn't want to invest $5,000 in a lens or a camera system, you could rent those things from camera shops. On the bottom left-hand side here, I called that my birding bra. That's not the correct term, obviously, but it's what I use to hold my binoculars. And you will love this thing because it just frees your hands up to do other stuff, and you don't have to be digging for your binoculars. They can be hanging right off your chest, and it's adjustable. Okay, let's talk about the travel plan. I mean, we spent probably 20 minutes just talking about what to do, how to get there. So I'm going to go through some of the sites that you're going to visit here. So again, this is Uganda. It's Africa condensed. You can, looking a little bit closer, you can see that we have Lake Victoria down here on the bottom right. And then you have the Albert Nile here going through Fort Portal. Lake Albert, which is fed by the Albert Nile. And then this is the Rift Valley here. So there's a volcanic system along this way where there's mountains over here on the Congo and volcanic mountains over here on the right side. But we'll start in Entebbe. Here we're right here, and we go north to. So day one is going to be a travel day. Day two will be we're going to go see the shoebill stork in the Mabamba Swamp. Day three, we go up to Maction Falls. It looks like Murchison Falls, a letter D, but it's actually pronounced Maction. And that's a 6-hour drive to get up there. So we stop halfway at letter C, which is the Ziwa Rhino Sanctuary on that day. And once we get to Maction Falls, at D, we get there around sunset, and then we spend 3 nights in Maction Falls. And you need that because we're going to explore Maction Falls National Park. We're going to do game drives in the park. We're going to take a boat ride out on the Nile. So you need a little bit of time for that beautiful park. Then we will drive another long drive, about 7 hours, to Kibale National Forest. And we'll spend 2 nights at the Chimpanzee View Lodge. so that we have the travel day, we get there, we spend the night, and the next full day we go see the chimpanzees. And then we will spend the night there and then drive down to F, which is the Ishasha Wildlife Sector, which is part of the Queen Elizabeth National Park. And we will go there to look for the tree climbing lions. We'll spend one night there at Ishasha, head to G, which is where the gorillas are. Ruhija is the name of the town. And we will spend 2 nights up in the mountains at about 7,000 feet elevation. So it's much different than where you were at Lake Victoria in Entebbe, where it's tropical. We're now at 7,000 feet, and it's chilly, and you need warmer clothes. And we'll spend 2 nights with one day's a partial travel day. Then the next day we go see the gorillas, and the gorillas are a half-day experience. And then in the afternoon, people are usually pretty tired, but are welcome to. But there's a community walk. The guide will take you into the community. You can go go shopping. You do a bird walk. So those are optional things that'll happen in the afternoon. Then we continue to H, which is Lake Mamburo. We spend one night there at one of my favorite lodges. Rakobo Rock is the name of that place. And now you're practically in the desert, which it's such an interesting contrast. And Lake Mamburo is the Nile, and it's like the Nile condensed. So if you didn't see it on the Nile, you're going to see it at Lake Mamburo. Plus at Lake Mamburo, there's eland, which is the heaviest of the antelopes that can only be found in Uganda there. And also impala, another type of antelope you wouldn't have seen at that point, and zebras. And then it's about a 4-hour drive to get back to Entebbe. And we schedule flights to be in the evening of the final day, day 12. So people should book their flights around 5:45 in the afternoon. So that's the overall. Where do we stay? If you go to the Green Adventures website, I've provided links to all the places that we stay at. Our lodges are about 3-star to 4-star eco lodges. So they're not hotels. There's a guest house, but guest houses all have their own like private bedrooms and private bathrooms. That's Papyrus Guest House in Entebbe. So we stay there for 2 nights. And then as we Pakuba Safari Lodge and Maction Falls, that is more of like a wilderness hotel. And Chimpanzee View Guest House are these little like cabins on a hillside overlooking tea fields and forest. And then Ishasha Jungle Lodge are raised platform tents, but they're like little hotels or little bungalows on raised platforms. They're all self-contained. Bachiga Lodge is in Ruhija, which is where we go see the gorillas. And these are these cabins that are on stilts looking out at the Burundi impenetrable forest. One year I saw a volcano erupting in the Congo from there. And then the last one is Rakabo Rock Lodge, and that is these little houses that are on these big granite rocks looking out at a savanna. So you could go to Green Adventures and click on all those links and investigate. So the first activity we do is, so this presentation is broken down into the activities and the parks. The very first experience that you're going to do is in Mabamba Swamp. Mabamba is the plural word for lungfish. Lungfish is a type of fish that can be found in Lake Victoria that people like to eat, and so do shoebill storks. So we go out on this adventure to see shoebills, and this is another one of those like serendipitous moments. That's the reason why this is on our tour. When I went to Uganda that very first time to scout out, I was sitting on the porch at Papyrus Guest House, and it was kind of like an acclimation day for me. And I was flipping through this magazine of that kind of talked about tours and highlights in Uganda, and I saw shoebill stork tours, and I thought, what? There a long time ago, I remember seeing on Facebook a video of a shoebill stork, and they're giant. They're like 5 feet tall. They move like animatronics, and I thought, I've got to see this bird one day. And here it is. It's in Uganda. So we got a tour guide for that day that took us out. And I'm going to show you what it's like in just a second to go across Lake Victoria, go through a papyrus swamp, only to find a prehistoric bird waiting for you. So we take these like wooden canoes from the shores of Entebbe out into this Ramsar wetland site. And once we get to a point where the motors they can't be in the water anymore because there's so many lily pads and and thick papyrus, one of the guides has to go stand on the top tip or the bow of the canoe and push using a stick. So here's how it starts. So we pull into the gates, get into these canoes, push off. There's Paul waving goodbye. We head out across Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria! And here's the papyrus growing. That's the very first time I'd ever seen papyrus because I'd learned about it. You know, the Egyptians made paper using papyrus. So we go into this papyrus swamp, and then as you can see, it gets thicker and thicker, and those are lily pads. And then here's one of our guides pushing through the mud to get us. And there it is. Then you get close to see this thing that doesn't even look like it's real. It seems like something from the land before time. This is the shoebill stork, and they have these little hooks on the front of the big hook on the front of their bill, so they can snag the lungfish. And they also eat birds and frogs. And so we spent some time there just getting to like observe shoebills, and it's a different every time. There is a chance that they can't find a shoebill, but I've done it 5 times now. We've always seen shoebills, and sometimes they're flying overhead. Sometimes you see more than one, but just to get there is a really true adventure. There's the shoebills. Isn't it beautiful? I love their little feather dews like sticking out the back of their head, but they're big bills. There's that you can see the point coming off of the top of their bill. They're more related to a pelican than a stork. Other birds that you can see there, though, the little egret up here on the left, to the right is the malachite kingfisher. Down here on the far left, it's the African jacana, and on the right, bottom right, is the yellow-billed duck. So this is just a few of those species of birds you can add to your list. We have several birders, usually a birder or two on every trip, and our list is averaging about 300 birds in 12 days. Okay, so I told you on your way from Entebbe, we go to letter C here, which is the Ziwa Rhino Sanctuary. And this is not a national park. It's a private sanctuary, but it's also supported by a nonprofit. And its ultimate goal is to reestablish wild rhinos into Uganda because there are currently none. And the only rhinos that are in Uganda are the white rhinos, which are these. The black rhino is extinct in Uganda. So on this trip, we meet a local guide who gives us an orientation about the site, the mission behind the project, how many individuals are living in the property, about the community that's surrounding it. And then along the way, he takes us on a walk and talks about different signs of rhinos. So they follow the great, I think called the rhino superhighway. So you can actually just see where these rhinos are walking through the sanctuary. And there's different family groups and bulls that are living here. And he can tell you who's doing what activities. But we look for like middens. Middens are where the rhinos poo. They have a communal toilet. And if a male wants to come in and like show that he's in town, he'll poop in that toilet as like leaving a message that I'm here. They also have, you can see rhinos where they make footprints or scratchings. And to put your foot next to a rhino's footprint, I mean, that's just so special. And he shows you where there's wallow holes and other signs of rhinos. But the point is to look at this, is to see that we're walking through mostly flat terrain. There are some areas where it's kind of like a wet area. So if it rained a lot, there could be some mucky spots where you're stepping. That's why boots are really important. And there could be holes, so you got to watch where you're walking. We go under some brush. But notice that the people on this trip, in this picture, have their pants tucked into their hiking boots, and some are wearing short sleeves, some are wearing their long sleeves, but no one's carrying a backpack because you're only walking about 2 or 3 miles round trip. And what makes this more difficult is if it's hot. So on this day, I think it was a little overcast and not that hot. But last year when we went, it was like full on sun, and so some people who are more susceptible, to overheating definitely felt that. So you could carry water or a backpack if you'd like, but it's not necessary. And this video is to just give you an idea of how close you will be to rhinos. So this is the group, oops. This is the group, observing some rhinos that were up and about eating. Notice these rhinos like short grass versus black rhinos will eat brush and trees, but they need the cattle in the sanctuary to keep the grass short for white rhinos, because they like shorter grass because their heads are big and heavy. And so this is just kind of what it's like to be out there when you see these, and it's different every time. Sometimes they're resting. Sometimes you see a mom and a calf coming by you, but you'll get an orientation about what to do if a rhino was to like charge after you, or but there's always which has never happened, but there's always somebody there explaining what you're looking at. So it's not like you're just just walking through the savannah. But how many people could say they walked with rhinos? And here's a picture of one of the participants with rhinos right behind her. So that's another good indication of how close rhinos are. Like I said, we moved from the Zero Rhino Sanctuary on our way to Maction Falls. And Maction Falls is this place is a very special place in my heart, because it is the very first African national park that I experienced. And I'll never forget the day that we came in, like Paul lifted up the roof of the Land Cruiser. I was standing up and we pulled into the park, and there was my very first herd of elephants. So close, I could hear them breathing, seeing their, you almost feel their flaps of their ears, and you can hear the crunching on the grass and just the weight of their bodies shifting. And I knew immediately it was super special. So Maction Falls is a pretty big place. It's about 1,500 square miles, but we will spend our time on the northern side of it. You see the Nile River goes through the park. So we spend our time exploring the northern part from the east to the west. And on the west side of it is where we see the deltas. So there's a lot of different habitats here. You have delta habitat, which is going to attract coastal creatures like birds, hippos, crocodiles. Same thing with the Nile. Then you have savanna habitat, which is with acacia trees and borassus palms, which are going to be where you're going to see the giraffes and elephants and lions and herds of kob. And this picture, it does justice in some ways, and in others it doesn't. What's hard to see is that all those little dots out there are Ugandan kob. And these are the breeding grounds for the kob. So when we drive through here, we'll see hundreds of kobs all congregated. And you can see the individuals, at first your eyes just see a bunch of cobs, but your guide will point out how the males are working to protect their females, or they're competing with each other to get females, or how they're on an alert stance looking over there because probably a lion is over there. And we use the prey animals' reactions to find the big predators. But also this is Maction Falls looks to me like the quintessential African landscape, almost Wizard of Oz like, because it's got the rolling green, like flat greens and rolling green fields in the distance with sometimes you see like the shapes of like elephants and giraffes and Cape buffalo all together, like a graphic design. And I love our game drives in the morning when the sun is real low and not intense on your skin, and it's actually cool and misty, and we're going down these bumpy dirt roads in search of animals, and so yeah, it's pretty special. Elephants you're going to see here, and I've had some, I already explained about one, but I've had some really beautiful elephant encounters, some of them even sad ones, because these elephants, when they go outside the park, can get caught in snares, and there's quite a few elephants with shorter trunks. And that's just a humbling wake-up call about how important protecting these animals is, and to give them the space they need in terms of parks, because they don't know boundaries, and to also invest money in parks so that they can invest money in communities around the parks to help protect these beautiful creatures. And elephants, they're more than just its. Like this isn't just one it elephant. This is a who. This is probably a mother, and this is her son. And they know each other as as those terms and elephant terms. They recognize that the mother or the grandmother knows where the water is. They know the best migration routes. And the young bulls need large male bulls in order to keep their behavior in check, just by releasing certain pheromones. They can speak to each other from long distances, but through vibrations in the ground. These are all things you don't know until you go on a safari and you meet these creatures and you want to learn more about them, or you learn from locals. Another animal that I never tire of seeing are giraffes. There's lots of giraffes in Action Falls, and the giraffe that we see here is the Rothschild giraffe, versus if you go to Kenya or Tanzania, you're going to see the Maasai giraffe. But these are they're called magic walkers or majestic walkers. They don't look like they should be so graceful, but when you see them walking across the landscape, it's like they just glide across. And just to see their facial expressions and to watch them eat, or to watch them joust with each other, it's very special. And Action Falls is home to about 23 species of the 29 species of antelope that is in Uganda. Now, we won't see all those. Some of them are very skittish antelope, but we'll see quite a few. And here are some of the common ones. Up on the top left is the hartebeest. Over here on the right, we have the Ugandan cob, which we see lots of. And then down on the bottom is the water buck. So these are some of the common antelopes that can be seen just in Action Falls. And then also other cool things like the potus monkey on the left. We'll see baboons, olive baboons. We'll see warthogs, monitor lizards, and leopards. Hopefully leopards. I can't guarantee a leopard, but we've been doing pretty well showing people leopards and lions on each tour. What's also special about Action Falls is Action Falls itself. It used to be thought of as the source of the Nile until they realize it's not, but it is an impressive place. We'll take a boat ride on the Nile to get to the base of the falls, but then we'll also see the falls from the top looking down too. And it's just a lot of water moving through a 24-foot gap. And this water is moving from east to west and will eventually connect with the Nile. Well, it is the Nile. It's part of the Nile. The Nile is, goes all the way to Egypt through, I can't think how many countries right now. 4 countries, I think. So we get on a boat and we head out, and your guide will explain the birds, some of the history, and some of the highlights. Like behind Libby here is a 25-foot Nile crocodile. We see elephants. We see Cape buffalo. We see lots and lots of bird species like marabou storks and ibis. And also we see the falls from the base, and hippos. I mean, you'll fall in love with hippos on this trip. And you can also have a Nile on the Nile. So from Action Falls, we spent, like I told you, we spent 3 nights there. We will head down to Kibale National Forest. We're heading south, but we're going up in elevation. And Kibale National Forest is where we see the chimpanzees. So chimpanzees are our closest genetic relative. And in the Kibale National Forest, we have 13 different types of primates that can be found there, including the blue monkey. It's called the primate capital of the world. But our target species is to go see chimpanzees. And this is where here's a short video of where we stay. So this is a view from my cabin at Chimpanzee View Lodge. And so this is typical of most of the places we stay. So it's not luxurious, but it's comfortable and clean and unique to the site. And here's a quick tour of the bathroom. And then you'll see the beautiful view from each of these cabins looking out at tea fields and the Kibale National Forest. So on the way to Kibale National Forest, we start off I think we leave at 7 a.m. And you see over here on the bottom right, the baboons are out there waiting for us as we're coming into the forest itself. We get an orientation from a ranger who tells us about the park, about the rules, like you can't get too close. You have to stay 10 feet away from the chimpanzees, but they don't know any rules, so they might come past you. You can't, not to scream, and Just some other thing, like not to make noises that like mimic those animals, for example. We're wearing forest friendly colors. We're going to walk through the forest quietly, and you're going to have a ranger and a scout with you. The scout is looking for different signs, and they'll talk to you about it, like if they see some chimpanzee scat or a nest, or they start to hear the chimpanzees, they'll talk to you about that. And then you have a ranger who's carrying an AK-47, and that is to protect you not from chimpanzees, but from animals like forest elephants. So that's one of they tend to be more aggressive than savanna elephants, and they live in the forest. And we don't want to, it's like walking in Alaska, if you come across a bear, there's certain things you need to do before you actually shoot a gun to scare a bear. And they do the exact same thing in the forest. They don't want to hurt animals. They just also want to protect people. So the two common questions I get about this trip is, how strenuous are these hikes? And any healthy, moderately active person can do any of the hikes that we're doing. If you are somebody who is like, I don't know, if right now you can't walk a mile without being out of breath, or you can't walk up maybe 10 flights of stairs, you need to start getting your body in shape to do something like this. So you do, like, it's not intense amount of walking, but it's the terrain is variable. And with the chimpanzees, it's walking, but a little bit of walking fast, and sometimes even running, because the chimpanzees, once they find them, the scout here in the front, she will try to keep up with the chimpanzee, and you got to walk fast to follow her. Now there's another scout or ranger at the back of the line too. So if the group gets split up because they just can't keep up with the front person, you're not going to get lost. There's someone in the front and someone in the back. But if to have your best experience, you're going to maybe have to walk fast. You might maybe have to jog a little to keep up with chimpanzees. And whenever I like moments like that, where I just said, you have to jog to keep up with chimpanzees, that's when I know that my job is pretty unique. So, but it's totally worth it. And there are some places that have boardwalks like this, and some places you're walking through just a footpath through through the trees, or there's a ranger or scout up ahead bushwhacking to get you into that spot. And here's kind of an example of that footpath. And the first thing usually this is how it works every of the 5 times I've done this. You show up in the morning and there's no chimpanzees on the ground. They're all up in the trees because they're just waking up too. And so we're all looking up at the chimpanzees and looking at them through the binoculars, which is helpful at this point because you're kind of far away, and there's a chimpanzee up here on the top right. And then all of a sudden you start to hear like the screaming from the chimpanzees talking to each other, because they have vocalizations that they'll be telling each other, like, are you up? I'm getting up. Let's go get food. Let's go over here. So they're talking to each other. And so the forest just comes alive. And on my YouTube channel, there's a video of a couple of the participants this year when they first heard that sound, and the look on their face is just priceless. So this is one of the chimpanzees kind of just resting. This is one of the males resting in the trees in that morning. But eventually they do come down. And here's an example of what that's like. So our ranger will tell us how close we can get, and we just stand there and start taking pictures or make observations. And these are they call it the prime minister, the president, and there's the vice president, I think. So they have these 3 guys that they basically run the troop. And it was a really unique experience to see all 3 of them down on the ground together. But I found that in the last few years, the first ones we always see are these guys. It's like they're the welcoming committee, but they're grooming each other. And I mean, look how special that is. We're not very far. And when you look in the eyes of these creatures, you can't help but feel like some form of empathy that, you're related to these. This guy, he let us, there's some more video of these guys just kind of hanging out, letting us take pictures of them. It's exhausting being a chimpanzee. But when you look at it too, I mean, like, again, these are forest people. There's that call I was talking about. And there's everybody standing, watching these two rest. And just a couple of, poses from our chimpanzee friends. After you do the chimpanzee trek, you get a certificate. And here's an example of what those certificates look like. The permits that we use that are purchased help protect the chimpanzees. It gives back money to the local community and also employs people within the park. In the morning, we do bird walks at that chimpanzee forest lodge. Actually, we do bird walks pretty much every place. If anybody wants to get up in the morning and walk around with Paul or one of his guides, and to see, what kind of birds are in the yard. So on our way from Kibale, we head down to Ishasha, which is in Queen Elizabeth National Park, and Paul likes to call it the Switzerland of Uganda. It's like there's like crater lakes up there, and there's cloud forest. The communities that live up there, they have bananas that they sell. So you'll see people riding around on bikes carrying around big bushels of bananas. But our main goal is to get down to Queen Elizabeth National Park to see the tree climbing lions, which is one right here in this acacia tree, right here in the middle. So here's what it looks like when you're going through Queen Elizabeth National Park. It's a little bit like a savanna, like I said, but now it's more of a wooded savanna. And in addition to the tree climbing lions goal of seeing, but this is where we can also see topi, which is another antelope, and elephants, and Cape buffalo. But then when we find these tree climbing lions, it is quite a treat. So it's not a different species. It's just an adaptation. They think that these lions like to go up after they eat as a way to just kind of cool off and avoid the bugs. But if it starts to rain, they'll climb down. Here's one of the females eyeing us up from the car. But they look like little Christmas tree ornaments to me. After we leave the Queen Elizabeth National Park, we're now headed to the Buwindi Impenetrable Forest. And there's several different troops throughout the Buwindi Impenetrable Forest. We go to the Ruhija family. Well, we go to the Ruhija community, which has their own groups of chimpanzees, of gorillas. And this is really the ultimate highlight for this trip in particular, because most people who come to Uganda want to see mountain gorillas. And as I mentioned before, there's only about 1,500 mountain gorillas left in the world. And there's to be able to see them up close and to interact with them is truly a life-changing experience. So how does this experience work? We stay in a community that's at about 7,000 feet, the Ruhija community, and we're at a place called Bachiga Lodge. And here's the view from their dining area. But this is also where you're going to be wearing your fleece jackets, and maybe even at night you're going to have a hat on because it does get cold. And the cabins don't have heat, but they have blankets. And this is Paul here, but right below are the little cottages that are looking out at the Buwindi Impenetrable Forest. Oh, here's another top of the cottage. And here's what it's like to sit and have breakfast in the morning as the sun's rising on our way to go to the ranger station, just like we do with the chimpanzees. And we'll have an orientation about the different families that our group is going to be divided in to see. So the way with gorilla trekking, we visit them only for 1 hour once they've been located, and each group can only have up to 8 participants in it. So if we bring a group of 10 people, for example, we could have 8 of us in one hiking group and 2 in another hiking group. Also, the groups are divided into easy, medium, and hard. Now it's a very loose term because there's no like set, like this makes it easy, this makes it medium, and this makes it hard. Also, these trails are set up and determined by where the gorillas are that day, because they move throughout each day throughout the week. And even though the scouts see them in the same place maybe 2 or 3 days or in the general area, but then maybe on the 4th day they move, or maybe another group has come in and tried to steal females and they disperse. So there's a lot of things that we have to take into consideration. But in general, the easy trail is usually flatter, and I sometimes find that easy and medium can sometimes be similar to each other in terms of how strenuous it can be. And it also depends on how active you currently are. Again, if you're somebody who can't walk a mile, this is going to be really hard. But if you're somebody who right now could go out and walk 5 miles at a relatively good pace, carrying a backpack, you'd probably be just fine, because most of the time I think the mileage has only been like 3.5 to 4 miles, and you don't even have to carry a backpack. You have porters who are carrying your stuff for you. But what makes it difficult is sometimes it's straight up in places, or it's like hills, so you have to go up and down, up and down. You have to walk through vines that are all kind of meshed together, and even though your porter's trying to move those, chop those for you or move those for you, you still have to step over logs. So it could be just a physically demanding experience, even if it is only a half a day. Typically, we get there at about 8, we start walking around 9, we come back, let's say by 11 or 9, we actually probably start walking at 8. So let's say we walk for an hour and we see the gorillas at 9, we observe them from 9 until 10, and then we walk back from 11 to how long it takes. Sometimes we have to take more breaks coming back because people are tired from walking there. But we're usually out of the experience back at the lodge around 12:30, 1 o'clock. So these are our porters who are carrying backpacks. You can bring your own trekking poles, or you could use sticks that are provided by the park. And this is kind of what that scene looks like when you're walking through the forest looking for gorillas. And actually, I'll show you. This is after they found a gorilla, actually a family. You see, we're kind of standing on an angle, and that is one of the scouts up ahead chopping down some of the bushes. And here's this family that's walking past us.
Tara, can I interject something here?
Hold on one second. Because one of the silverback is going to come up here in just a second. Look how big that guy is. Oh, actually, those were 2 females. Here's a silverback. I'm sorry. It's been a while. Now you see how big these guys are. And so, the scout is letting us know that the gorilla is very comfortable with us, and we could just stay where we are, and we just are watching as he walks by. So you won't spend an hour necessarily just in one spot. You might move around as the gorilla moves around, because the the silverback is the one who determines where everybody, what the ladies are doing, what his harem and his kids are doing at that time. Lori, what would you like to say?
I was just going to add the group that I was with. We found the gorillas. They were at the bottom of a very steep slope, and you're no longer on a designated path. You're in the middle of the actual forest, and it's unbelievable to imagine where you're at. But the great thing about having these porters with is the slope was so steep. As I was trying to hold my good camera and get some pictures, they were holding me from behind by my waist to help steady and get some good pictures. The porters are your friends. They give you a helping hand. They carry all of your backpack, your water, your equipment, so that you can get the best out of this experience. It's amazing.
That was a really good segue, because this picture here just shows the different types of terrain, shows us walking up, with the porters in between each one of us. And yeah, there's no paths at some point. It's just they bushwhack to get as close as they can. And sometimes you're standing at a steep angle, but there's always somebody there taking care of you. I have another video. Oh, I won't show this whole thing, but what I really liked about this video was, as we were watching, it was a juvenile and a female who were just kind of playing with each other and rolling around and biting each other. But what was so sweet about it is you could actually hear them giggling. You could hear joy coming from these animals. And I really do think that we would, could change the world if we acknowledge that animals had emotions or have emotions. So to have moments like this where we can actually see them playing and giggling together. But I have a better video of just this last time. So we're wearing masks for the gorillas, obviously, because we don't want to give them a respiratory disease like COVID. But this is how close I was to a mom and her baby. And she was really like okay with this little guy or gal. I'm not sure what this baby was, the gender of it. Just hanging around us. And here's that video. He was very, very curious. There were times I was like, please, baby, don't come any closer. Because there was one time when the baby was so close. I mean, I actually had to get up and move away from it because it was so curious about us. But mom didn't even seem to care. Look at that little toddler's face. So these are those moments, and I showed you a couple different views. You sometimes see them up close, you sometimes have them walking right past you, and sometimes you're standing up looking down at them, like with some grass or some bushes in the way. But still a really, really special experience. Oh, I think this is where the silverback stands up. Let me just see. Look how big he is. That's a giant gorilla. Oh gosh. So at the end of the experience, we hike out, we get back in the vehicles, we get our certificates, just like you did with the chimpanzees. And they talk to you about how it's important for you to please share this experience with your friends. Have more people come because I mean the permits. Gosh, I think the permits are $800 for the gorillas, and so a portion of that goes to protecting the education for schools, giving people jobs, protecting the forest. Oh, and here's that view that I was talking about, the kind of like the Switzerland of Uganda, but also kind of like the typical view as we're coming out of the Bwindi impenetrable forest, looking at the different agricultural fields. And you can see also where the Bwindi impenetrable forest just basically ends and agriculture begins. And you start to just learn just about how, like how precious that protected land is. finally, we go to Lake Mamburo National Park, and this is our final national park. It's a chance for you to get those last pictures of the game that you haven't had a chance to see, especially the zebras. But this is the property that we stay at. It overlooks this it's like a desert-like savanna, and you'll hear zebras. Sometimes zebras are walking by because it's partly private owned and part of the national park. So you get like animals that are passing through that aren't, but they're not necessarily in the park. And here's those zebras. Eland, which is another type of antelope, the largest antelope. You might see the mongoose. These are impala, another antelope species. This is the national bird of Uganda. It's the African gray-crowned crane. And we take a boat out onto Lake Mamburo, and you have a chance to see hippos up close. You see Nile crocodiles. You see the African eagles and other bird species. And here's Rokobo Rock also this is the dining area here on the left. And this is what it looks like inside some of the cottages in Rokobo Rock. And then we head to Entebbe, where flights depart after 5 o'clock at night. So I say it's only crazy until you do it. And it's only a crazy dream until you do it. And so many of what, Green Adventures has to offer, they started off as my dreams. And then I'm just lucky that, I've had the opportunity to, like I said, create these programs, and I want to make them as accessible as possible for people like you. And I want to take the guesswork out of the dream. We do all the planning, we take care of it for you. So if you go to greenadventures.com and you go up to destinations and you click on international and you click on Uganda, you'll come to this page, and you could scroll down and there's a list of trips for 2023. Right now, we're only offering a women's trip, but if you're interested in doing the co-ed trip, we're working on one, so please let us know. It'll be about a week before the women's trip. And co-ed trips are for men, women, for adults, kids. So those are our co-ed trips. But here are the details. You'll scroll down, and we have early bird pricing. So I'll tell you what's included, what isn't included. Pretty much everything is included except for your gratuity, airfare, your tourist visa, and your travel insurance, and bottled beverages like sodas and bottled water. We do provide filtered water to refill your water bottles during the safaris. But if you buy things at the lodge, those are extra. All your meals are also included. We have a Facebook interest group which you could join, and then here's the early bird pricing. So before October 15th, if you sign up, it's $55.25 per person plus the exclusions that are listed above. After October 15th, it gradually goes up. So if you sign up early, you save money. And our minimum is 8 participants, and I think we have 5 who are signed up right now. So we're really close to reaching our critical mass. But that is everything in a nutshell.
Sarah?
Yeah.
We have one question in the chat, and that is, what's the time difference between the US and
that's a good question. I think it's 8 hours.
Yeah, it's 8 hours from the Midwest.
Yeah, so 8 hours from the Midwest.
They're 8 hours later than us.
Yeah, 8 hours ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Great. So if you want to ask questions, now's a great time to do it. That's the presentation. And you're welcome to come on camera or just put it in the chat box. Anybody typing anything? I guess I should look at it.
I'm not seeing anybody typing.
Well, great then. So thank you very much for taking the time to learn about the Uganda trip. I hope that you will join me in Uganda. We're going to do a presentation on Tanzania in about 45 minutes. And if you signed up for that, you can, we'll see you soon. You could also email Tara at greenadventures.com, and I could send you an invite link if you haven't had a chance. But thank you very much. And if you have any questions, you know how to find me. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.